Okay, WebPT5, we're going to talk about Axios post, put, and delete requests today. So let's go ahead and get started. I have my trinkets project open on Code Sandbox. I dropped a link in channel so that you guys have a starter for today's project. It's okay if you use your own code. If you would prefer to use your own code, just know that I do have some extra components written or pre-written for you here, so you don't have to write them for our forms and such. So I would just recommend you forking off of this particular project. Let's see. Also, if you haven't gone to Lambda's GitHub page, github.com/Lambda School, and gotten the trinkets API, go ahead and fork and clone this. So let me go back to channels, sprint 8, drop that in channel. And you can fork and clone that and do a yarn install and then a yarn start, so you have a server running with some data on it. That's what we're going to work with today. Any questions so far about the setup?
All good.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of review. Axios is just like any other package that we've used thus far in React, just like prop types, just like React Router DOM. So you would do a yarn add Axios in your text editor of choice. Whenever you are working with your React application, it will add it to the package.json, and I know we haven't really talked about the package.json very much, but just know that the package.json is basically like a central hub for all of your packages. So you see here that we have the name of the project. This is the first version of our project. We don't have a description or any keywords. This is just automatically generated. This talks about the main file that we're working with, which is the source folder, and we're working with the index.js. Now, this isn't necessarily like too terribly important, but it's good to have so people know like where everything is rendering to. And then this is the big important one, our dependencies, and actually our dev dependencies too, which we'll talk about more when you get to the back end. But the dependencies list all of our packages here that we use for our React projects. React scripts comes pre-baked when you do a create React app. All of the others we have actually, or excuse me, also React as well. So React and React scripts come pre-baked with create React app, and then all of the others have been installed. Let's see. The scripts object that's right here, or the scripts JSON object, I should say, that's right here. You might recognize some of these words. If we do yarn start, it's going to produce this script and start this script. So whatever you yarn, so yarn start, yarn build, yarn test, yarn eject, it's going to do what's on the right. So if you didn't know that that's what this was for, that's what that's for. So whenever we do yarn start, it's going to do React scripts start, and it's going to run that command, which is kind of cool. And then this is new for React 16. Basically, this just says what browsers we are going to be using our application for. And this also comes pre-baked, so you don't have to list all that out. Okay. Any questions about the package.json? Okie doke. All right. All right, so we have our component did mount. Our component did mount is doing an Axios request so we can actually get our list of data. So we're doing an axios.get, and we're doing a get to the URL of where our data is housed. Now, if you don't know, or if you are not given the endpoint to the data itself, what you could actually do is take a look at, let me go back to my back end. Take a look at your server.js file wherever your backend is housed. And then what you could do is go down to the very last function. It says server.listen. And this is where it tells you what port number to listen for. So in this instance, it looks like we have a variable. So if we go to the top, it should have it listed. We're on port 3333. And then if you do some investigating and take a look at the routes on the back end, past our data, we have a server.get. This is the sanity check that I wrote the other day. But then we also have a server.get/items. This is where we're going to get all of our items. So for localhost 3333/items, that's where you're going to find the items on your server. And just to double check, we could go to localhost 3333/items. And then you can see we do have our list of items.
Sina, well, is there ever a time where it won't just be like local 3333? Like, is it specific to the computer, or is it like an internet thing? How does it know, or how do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, how do we know that it's just a 3333, or like,
Sure.
does it say like, is it a 5724 the next day? Like, what is?
Sure. So it's 3333 simply because that's what we defined it as. We could change this. Here, let me stop my server for a second. We can change this if we wanted to 5,000 and do a yarn start. It's listening on port 5,000. And if we went back here, and if we tried our 3333/items, we're not going to get anything. But if we go to 5,000, we get our sanity check. If we go to 5,000/items, we get all of our data.
So that's kind of just personal.
Yes, it's whatever for your port. It's whatever you want it to be, and this is for development only. So whenever you're actually doing production work, you're going to actually use the deployed site. Wherever your site is deployed, you're going to use that endpoint instead. Because yeah, no problem. Because your hosted site is going to take care of your server.
Okay,
cool. Going to be your server, I should say. Cool. Okay. So let me go back. Okay. So we're doing our, let me go ahead and change this since I have it changed back there. Let's do a reload. Okay, cool. So we're doing our get, and when we're doing an Axios request, what does an Axios request return?
You ask what doesn't return?
Yeah, what does an Axios request return?
It's not an object.
Doesn't it return a JSON file?
Yeah.
XML file?
PRO?
Oh, the port.
No.
A prop.
A promise? Promise?
Oh, it was a promise. Okay, because I see the then and the catch. So
yes. So the Axios request always returns a promise. And then if that promise is fulfilled, what is it going to do?
it goes in the then. Or it will actually go through?
It'll go through and it'll do what?
You'll set the state.
Set the state.
Perfect. Yes, that's exactly right. And if there's any sort of error, so like for instance, if I accidentally leave off with a 0 and refresh, what happens?
Well,
You get the error because it's on the catch.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. And if you wanted a little bit more information about that error, you could do console.error instead, and it'll tell you that it's some sort of network error coming from, yeah. So if you want a little bit more information, console does have an error method that you can utilize instead of console.log. Console.log tends to not give you as much information. It'll just say it's an empty error.
I wanted to ask you about that. So, is there like an MDN for like consoles?
Yes.
Like console dot
Yes.
insert. Yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's take a look. So MDN console. There's all sorts of console functions that we don't necessarily get the time to teach you at Lambda. So console.assert, console.clear, console.count, etc., etc. Console.dir. Of course, we all know console.log. There's actually a table one as well. So there's all sorts of console stuff that you can utilize. So you can peruse this at your own leisure. Let me drop this in channel as well. There you go. Any other questions about the console? I tend to use console.error and console.log the most. I've used console.table on occasion. That just returns like a tabular data set. So I tend to use it whenever I have like database, like a relational database on my back end.
So it doesn't really organize any data. You have to be some specific data.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you want to organize that object, it will not put every single item in a table cell.
It's gonna produce a table based upon however your table is set up on your backend. So we'll get more into that later.
Okay.
When you guys talk about backend with the backend instructor. Any other questions at this moment in time? Okay. Okay. Let me change this back. We are good. We are good. Everything works still. Okay, cool. All right, so we're all kind of set on our GET request. Any questions, any more questions about the GET? We can move on to POST if there are no more questions. Okay, so let's take a look at the Axios docs for POST and see what it says. Performing a POST request. Okay, cool. So it looks like for the Axios.post, it looks like we're just posting to some sort of URL. In this case, they're just using an endpoint here. And then we need our the information that we are going to post. So takes in a URL. Second argument is your information, the body of the request body you're wanting to send. And then it's our regular normal promise syntax like normal. So let's go ahead and try to do a post request on some data. So let's see. Let's go back to our project. Let's do, we'll call it add item. And it's going to take in an item. Let me turn off the autosave. 1 second. Okay. And then let's do our Axios post. Where are we going to be posting to?
To the, well, whatever the API says.
On the back end, right? So let's take a look. It looks like we're posting to items. So it's a localhost 5000/items. So that's where we're going to be posting to. So localhost 5000/items.
It'd be different for us. It'd be 3333, right?
Yeah. Because it's just because I switched to 5000.
So that 5,000 is the client or the server?
This is the server.
That's the server, okay.
When you're working with your React project on your back or on your IDE, your React application usually runs on 3000. So localhost 3000 for your React application, localhost whatever they say for your server.
So on that component did mount Axios, and this is the localhost 333 and items. That items has nothing to do with the this.state items.
Correct. Because we haven't set the items on state yet.
Okay, so that items after the 5000 is not items from this.state.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because once we in order to change our database on the back end, we have to do a post to the server to get a response back. And then once that post is done, we'll do another request to actually get the actual data that's on our back end. We'll get into that more when we talk back end stuff. Any other questions? Okay, so our first argument is the URL. What's our second argument?
Item.
Item, very good. And then we are going to do what?
.then.
And we're going to have a response of some sort. And it's always good to console.log that response so you can see what it looks like. And then we can do, and what comes after the then?
Catch.
Very good. Very good. Awesome. Okay. So we have our add item written. Let's take a look at the components we have to work with because we need some sort of form, right, to actually put this in our items array. So we have item description, item form. That looks promising. We have update form. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's go ahead and click on item form and see what we have going on here. It looks like our item form has some state on it because we're actually, what's the unique like property of a form that we kind of need to have in order to work with it?
The name of each input.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We need to be able to control like each input, correct? So, so we have to have some sort of like localized state on the actual form itself, um, and it updates every single time a user, inputs something on their keyboard. So, so that's the unique nature. Well, that's like one of the unique things about form components is that we have to have some sort of localized state so that we can control the input. So it looks like we have a component did update. We'll talk about what active item here is in a second, or a little bit later, I should say. And then we have a change handler that is like any other normal change handler. And got some inputs, and we've got a button here down at the bottom. Let's go back to our index.js and let's take a look at the routes. And it looks like, let's see, we have a route that goes to home, we have a route that goes to item list, we have a route that goes to the individual item. It looks like we have a route that goes to item form. So let's go ahead and go to item form to see what it looks like. And it looks like it's just any normal standard form. And it looks like it currently does work as far as like typing stuff in. Now, if we were to add it, it doesn't work quite yet. We don't have it wired up. So we need to wire it up. So what do we need to do to add item to get our form to actually work?
Well, if the response is correct, then set the state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we need to well, not there on add item, but I guess on a different method to add all the inputs that we start adding to the form, to the state of each input.
Okay.
To later send that when you click the add item, then is when you call the add item method with the item that you're going to add.
Okay, so basically we need to construct this argument or this parameter right here in our form. Okay, I hear you. All right, so let's do that. All right, so let's go back up. We have a change handler, so we don't need to worry about that. It looks like we do need, though, our handle submit. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Handle submit. And what is our handle submit going to take in? What is it?
An
event.
Yeah, very good. Let's go ahead and event.prevent default so it doesn't reload. And then we are going to, let's see. We have our state, and it looks like we have an item object that has all of our properties already in it. So this is an interesting way to kind of set this up. Usually what I have done in the past is have each individual property set on state, but I think this is probably, it requires a little bit less code because you don't have to say this dot set state dot, or this dot set state on item, or on name, on price, on image URL, on description, and on shipping separately. You could just do it as one item. So that saves you a little bit of code. So let's do, do we need to do, we have our add item method here. What do we need to do to our add item to actually get it to work?
We need to pass the item.
Yes, we need to pass the item. That is correct. How do we get this add item to work on our form?
We need to put it on the add new item button as a function, maybe like a function call.
Right, exactly correct. So how do we get, right now, add item is on index.js. Item form.js doesn't see add item because why?
I guess we have to pass it as a prop.
There you go. Very good. Awesome. All right. And it looks like right now we are only passing the component. So we're going to need to do what in order to pass the prop?
Do the render.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. Great job, you guys. So let's change this to render. I'm just going to copy paste this right here. Copy. Paste. Awesome. Let's see, make sure. Item. This needs to go to item form. Okay. Props. Passing in item form. We're passing in like the match prop, the history prop, all those props, location prop. And then we are passing down, instead of items, we're going to pass down add item. And we're going to call it, or it is this.state.add. Or excuse me, not this.state.add item, this.add item, because it's not on state. Okay. And then to double check what we can do is just console.log, this.props on the form, just to make sure we were passing these down correctly. So it looks like we do have the add item prop. So that's great. Awesome. All right, so now that we have add item as one of our props, we can actually call it in our handle submit. So this dot props dot add item, and then what is it going to take in?
It's going to take item as an argument, right?
Yeah, it's going to take in item as an argument. What is the syntax for that item? How do we retrieve that item?
Oh, this state that item.
Yeah, very good. This dot state dot item. Awesome. And then what I like to do after I have submitted a form is I like to reset the form. So you can do this dot set state, and then on your item, you can do, and I'm just going to copy paste this here so I don't make any mistakes. You can turn this back into an empty string, and I already made a mistake, so let me fix that. Okay. All right, so basically we're resetting the this.state.item all back to empty strings. That way we can empty out the form after we're done submitting it. So let's go ahead and test it. Let me copy paste some data for you in here. Zoom, you're in the way. Okay. MQRN. Cool. What's the other piece of data we need? Description. And then shipping. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and try to post an item and see if there are any bugs in our code. Okay, it looks like it reset the form. Let's take a look at our actual page. Doesn't look like it did anything there yet, quite yet. But let's take a look. Let me open this up in the big screen. Oh wait, no, there it is. Haha, I didn't, oh wait, no, I had to refresh. So it doesn't work quite like we want it to yet. So let me go ahead and reset my server. Resetting my server basically goes back to just reading what's on the back end because it's hard coded. So let me reset that, refresh, and let's go ahead and try it one more time. Oops. Add new item. We go to shop. Yeah, it's not there yet. So it doesn't quite do what we want it to do yet. All right, so what do you guys think that the issue might be?
Well, the issue, I haven't seen where you actually create the item that we're adding. I mean, there have to be a point where you add every single input to the properties of item, like price, description, and all that.
All right, let's take a look at it one more time. All right. So let's go to form. Rock, paper, scissors, 33. Description here, standard. All right, you can see that we have a request right here. And if you look in our array, the very first one doesn't show anything. There's no content, anything like that. But if you look at the second request, there is a post. It does come back with a status of okay. And if we were to look at the preview of the response, so this is what we actually get back. But if we look at the preview gives us the nice formatted version of it. It does have our item here. It's just we haven't listed it in our actual user interface yet. So it is getting into our data. it is there. So the post does work. It's just a matter of actually not having to force an actual reload whenever we're actually doing the post. So if we go back and reload, I think it does show up. So it's just a matter of how can we do this without having to force a reload?
Do we put it in a promise?
Let's take a look. There's one thing that I think is missing from my promise when I go back to my index.js. Well, actually right now, yeah, it's 100% missing from the promise. Haha, because we haven't set our state. So we're only console logging the response. So let's go ahead and set that on state. So we're going to do this dot set state. And then items. And then we're just going to take our response.data and set it on state. Because whenever you do a post, what you get back, where did it go? Items, here we go. What you get back, this is the response.data object. If you take a look, so this entire thing is the response.data object. So on and so forth. So we set that on state, and then let's see if that works. So let's go back to, let's refresh the page. Or let me actually reset my server to clear out the thing that we already put in here. Refresh. Okay, good, it's not there. So let's go to item form. Free image description here, shipping here, add new item. Okay, so we've set it on state. That looks good. What would make this a little bit more user-friendly?
Could you repurpose the question? Because it looks user-friendly so far.
What would one typically expect when you're filling out a form on a website?
Like a response, like a confirmation that the data.
Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of going to shop to verify that, it should stay there. Like the data should stay on what it is right now, or maybe get a like a message right below or above the form.
So like an alert, basically?
Yeah, either like an alert or some sort of message on the
like, are you sure?
Yeah, or yeah, maybe like a preview as to how it might look. That would be a lot more complicated than like for this project than what we would want to do. But that would be a really great idea.
It just redirects you to the shop page.
Yeah, that would be a really great plan too. So why don't we actually do that? So what can we utilize to link us to another page? Is there anything in the React router props that we can use to link us to another page?
The word link?
With the nav link?
Be history.
Oh, we can use history.push, right?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
So,
man.
so we can utilize this .props.history.push, and then it takes in a string, right? And it goes wherever we want it to go. So what did we call our the item list?
Item list. Yeah.
Item list, yeah. So this just redirects us to the shop's main page. So once we go to item form, and we'll link that up here in a second too, because I know that's not linked up. Add new item. Oh wait, do I need to? Well, status. Oh, I need to reset my server. The request failed status code 422. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at that so we can see what that means. We'll have to do it on. No, wrong one. This one. No, I was correct the first time. There's good. Does it say? Does it say? It doesn't give the actual. Let's inspect. Let's see if we can find the network. Oh, it's not going to show us. All right. No, I want you guys to see this. So let's go ahead and do it again. That one was okay. Ah, I want you guys to see this. Oh, no, did that work? No. There we go. If you take a look at, so here's the response that we get after we have entered in an item that is already in our database. So Yugong Dig Goofed, rock, paper, scissors already exists in the item DB. So if you go to the back end and you take a look at the post request, you will see that if the item exists, it's going to list that error, and it's going to give you a code of 422. Where's the code of 422? 422. Send user error. I guess it's automatic. Or up here. Oh, there it is. 422 error message. The message that's being passed. And this is just so you guys can start getting used to reading like what a server is going to look like. So you have this is the actual response that we got from the server because our item has already existed. We've already inputted our item into the database. So what I need to do to reset that is just Control-C out of my server and just restart it. It's going to restart with the hard-coded information that we have here. It's going to clear out what we had before because it doesn't, right now it does not persist because it is basically whenever we are doing our GET request, we are getting the items, which is just a variable, assigned to this array of objects. So we have these items here, and if we go down to our GET request, this res.json, which you don't even need to know what res.json does right now. All you need to know is that this is the statement that actually puts those particular, that that hard-coded database of items that we have up above, that's what puts it onto the database that we're working with on our back end, if that makes sense.
So when so when we're adding something on the form, it doesn't stay in that document. It's just in memory.
Yeah, it only stays so far as you have the server running. Once you turn the server off and turn it back on, because it's only setting these particular items on state, we don't have, so our front end is not physically adding anything to this items array back here. Just because this is a toy project. In real life, you're going to be working with an actual database where you actually add items to a database and those items persist. Right now, we're just kind of working with hard-coded data, and toy problem, something that's not necessarily going to persist once you turn your server off.
But
Okay, but is there any other like no any other way, but like any other moment that you're gonna have to insert to persist data on this document on the server?
On this particular, like, as far as like the scope of your project now?
No, I know, but I thought that the pause method will actually write data in the file, and so it's just in memory.
The post method writes information to a database. And right now we're working with a toy database and not a real database.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So right now all of our data is hard-coded, and so every time you reset the server, it's going to reset it to the original state of your database. In which this instance is just an array full of objects.
Okay, so there's really no meaningful application out there where you have to write data on this type of documents. Like this is like it's a text file pretty much.
Yeah, this particular file, yes, pretty much a text file, and it's just gonna whenever you restart your server, it's just gonna revert back to what the original file said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Because this is hard coded in, correct?
Yeah,
That's my understanding.
because it's hard coded. Once you start working with an actual database, things will change.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we going to have to, I guess, will we have to ever do an actual server.js like from scratch?
Yes.
That's exciting.
In the back end.
So is this kind of imitating the back end in a way?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Very
okay.
much so. Mm-hmm.
All right. So in a real application, we have to create this server, but the server will not have any data that we are going to work with. The server is basically going to communicate with the database.
Yes.
Okay. So the server is pretty much like the instructions of how to access a database. It's not really to write data in the same file.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. You'll have when I believe you guys will be studying relational databases, I want to say. So basically the way that works is that you're going to have some sort of file that you set up to set up a database locally, and then to set up a database in production. So those are going to have like two separate like lists of characteristics and how you operate them. So it can get a little confusing, but just know that you'll have a database locally, you'll have a database in production, and you'll learn how to work with both of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what full stack means.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to build not just the front end, but in order for the front end to work, we have to build our servers for the front end to be able to, to link the front end, to be able to talk to each other, to be able to deploy the app, the web app properly.
Yes, and you also need to learn how to construct a database,
Gotcha.
which kind of considered a little bit separate from a server. So when people talk stacks, so my particular specialty is the MERN stack, which is the MongoDB database, Express server, React front end, and Node.js. well, I guess Node.js is technically the server, but we're using Express to kind of help set up a server quickly. So MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. What you guys will be doing is, I think, Pern, which is Postgres, Express, React. Well, I guess you guys might get to choose between Node or Java. So, although I'm not 100% certain on that. So, but yeah, so that's technically what a stack means.
So we can choose the route that we want to take?
Yeah, well,
back end?
I know they are testing it for full-time. I don't know when they're going to roll it out for part-time or if they've already rolled it out.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know that they started testing it 2 or 3 months ago for full-time. So some full-time students took the Node route, some full-time students took the Java route.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
More valuable.
That is a really great question, and I think the viewpoints could differ wildly on that. I think it depends on where you want to go with your career and like what types of jobs you're going to be going for. So I think both of them are valuable, and you'll probably end up learning both in the long run anyway. So I think it just really depends on what type of job you're wanting to go for in the first place. So if you notice like a lot of jobs in your area, you're not wanting to relocate, but if you're noticing a lot of jobs in your area are requiring like Java for the backend, Java is probably a great, way to go. If you're noticing a lot of people are requiring Node for your backend, Node's probably a really great way to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I was planning not to relocate, but I'm open. But everywhere here in the Portland, Vancouver area, it's Node everywhere.
So I think it just depends. So honestly, I notice a lot of people are using Java backends with React lately in the Bay Area. So I'm probably going to end up having to learn Java in the long run, but it's not far off from C. And I already learned C in computer science. So I noticed that it's not far off from C. So I don't think it's going to be terribly difficult to learn. It's just a lower level language. And so it takes a minute to kind of wrap your mind around it, I think.
We'll be learning C later down when we do computer science, right?
I think so. Although, like with the recent assembly the other day, I know they're structuring sprints a little bit differently, and so I don't know necessarily like what they're keeping for computer science and what they're taking out, or what's staying, what's going, things like that. I know that they're changing the curriculum a little bit to accommodate that new sprint structure. So I have no clue. To be announced. Any other questions? We could probably take a break for 5 minutes, and then we can talk about any questions that come up on post, and then we could talk about update and delete.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to see after the 5 minutes, when you put together the item, because I think we didn't see that part.
So on actual item form, this was already predetermined. This was already pre-written. So we have our item here already, and then we have our change handler, which as the user inputs their item on the add form, this changes, right? And
okay,
then
I'm looking right now at the server.js. That is
the server.js. Okay. Oh, sorry. I think I'm.
okay. That part right there is what not there, right? Scroll down. Okay. No, go up a little bit. That's the handle submit. Okay, that one right there.
Okay.
It says this says state change handler.
This just over here on line 25?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is your basic like normally what the way we've done it in the past. This is a little different, and I think this is just because they want you to see different code. that does the same thing. We normally do event.target.name, or excuse me, this.setState. Let me fix that. And then we have an object.
Oh, so that wouldn't be event.target handle? Oh no, that's for that. That's for a change. No.
Target.value. So it would be event. Sorry. Did not create property. Oh, it's because I'm on the update forum. Value is not defined. Why is value not defined? Event.target.value.
Oh, because yeah, you are coming out the value variable.
I did. There. And then, yeah, that's not going to work. This stop set state. Oh, here. Let me just get rid of all of this. Let me get rid of this. No problems. Cool. But I don't think it's working like it ought to. Or maybe shop, home, shop. Do I have my server started? I do. Am I listening on the wrong? That might be, this might be, yep. Let me try this again. I'm looking at this is the solution code. So it's not set up like I have it, but basically what this block of code does here, with the exception that we're using the parse int just to change the string that a user inputs for a number. We're using that to convert it to an integer. So that's the only difference here. But this is like basically what that block of code is doing, which is what we've normally seen when we have the name here equal to the value here. So whenever we type, it places that on state. So we end up with an item that's full of stuff, well, full of properties that are all strings. And then what is happening whenever we have that on state. So when we do our handle submit, we're calling this.props.add item, and what it's doing, it is taking this item that's on state, this full object, and it's passing it as an argument to this.props.add item, which is what we had in our index.js. Does that make anything a little clearer?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the add item, I completely get it, but not where you add the input values into the item object.
So the change handler is what you're not getting.
That's right.
Okay, so let me.
Yeah, because I get that. I mean, when you start typing in the form, those values will get automatically added to the state.
Yes.
But I see that they are like not encapsulated on their item. They're just there by themselves.
They're all in the item object. So state has an item object, and that item object has a name, price, image, URL, description, and shipping property.
Okay.
So we are taking this entire item. So from lines 5 through line 11, we are passing that into our add item function.
Okay. All right. Go up a little bit and see if I, okay, this state event target. Okay, I get that, but I don't see how. I mean, I know that will list like every single name for the inputs, but I don't see how those values or those properties get encapsulated into the item object.
Because we have the value set down here to this dot state dot item dot name.
Okay.
This
Okay.
dot state dot item dot price.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So on and so forth.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So let's take a 5-minute break. I will see you guys in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's come on back. Any questions that came up over the course of the last 5 minutes? Okay, so just to kind of recap what we did, we have this add item function that takes in an item we pass to it, and then we do a post request to Axios on that particular item. The Axios post request takes in a URL, so the endpoint where our item is going to go, and then the actual body of the item itself. And then it returns a promise, and that promise has some sort of response. And whether or not the response is fulfilled or rejected, it's going to do one of two things. If it's fulfilled, it's going to do this then response, where it is going to set the response.data onto state, and then we're going to push to the item list endpoint on our front end. So it's going to show us our list of items. If the promise gets rejected for whatever reason, it's going to console log the error. Okay. And then so in order to use this add item function, we have to pass it down to our form. So on our route for our form, we are rendering some props where we are adding, or where we have the add item function being passed down as add item. So when we get to our item form, we can call up add item with this.props.add item. Okay, so in order to get our form to work, we have to have a handle submit and then a handle change, or a change handler. So we have a change handler here that's already been written for us. Then basically what it does is it takes the input that a user has put in and puts that on state. Okay. And then we have this handle submit function that takes, that calls add item, that calls the this.props.add item. It passes in the item that we have on state, okay? And then it resets the form, although this is kind of superfluous now because we're just pushing to the actual list of items as opposed to staying on that page. If we stayed on this page, I would say, hey, we should probably keep this, but we can comment it out since it's not really needed since we're pushing to the shop page anyway. Any questions on that flow?
How'd you push it on the shop page again? Use that render?
Say that one more time.
How'd you push it to the shop page? You used the render thing, right?
We used, where'd it go? It's an add item, I think. We used this.props.history.push.
Oh, shoot. What was the render used for? I forget.
Render? I didn't actually use, render is just used for the actual UI itself. And then every time we use this.setState, it re-renders.
Oh, no, I thought you had like
about the route.
The route. I'm sorry. Yeah, sure. Yeah, on the route, we utilized render to pass down props. So we pass down add item in the render property or the render attribute.
Okay, I remember now. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions on adding an item to our list?
So, not really a question, but kind of just a clarification of our previous assignment with the ad list. What was it? Like the list thing that we had to do, where it was just like shop. It was the shopping list. Something of that nature in regards to this add item type thing.
It's similar but different. So similar in that you are adding items, different in that the way you are setting those items on state, I think, is a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about updating an item. So what do we need in order to, what type of information, I think, do we need in order to update an item? Has anybody looked at the Axios documents for updating?
So I'm sorry. The thing is that the put method, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
So for the put method, obviously it's going to be Axios.put. So what is needed as far as like an endpoint goes for using put?
I think it's got to be the same item with the item ID and all that.
Yeah, very good. Exactly. So if we, let's see if we can find, or there's a put. Yes. So whenever we are utilizing put, our endpoint needs to include the ID. So whatever URL we have on that front end to call Axios with has to include the ID of the item. So let's go back to our index.js. So we're going to have some sort of update item. It's going to take in an item. And then we are going to do a put request. And our put request is going to take in a URL. In this case, it's still localhost. For you guys, it's 3333/items/ oh, it's going to take in, we need to interpolate this. So because the ID is dynamic, we need to utilize template literal notation so we can utilize a variable to access that item ID.
It's not okay. It's not. Okay, so it's gonna be item ID.
Yeah, if we take a look at, so let's just go to, let's see what our data looks like. Let's just go to localhost 1000/items. We have a name, we have an ID. So here it's ID, but it's whatever you would be calling the ID in your backend. In most cases, it'll be ID. So it's item.id in this instance.
Okay.
And every time something is dynamic, we use the template literal.
Yeah, just because we'll need to utilize like a this is essentially a variable because we're accessing the ID of any given particular item that we are using.
Okay. Okay.
Are you sure you're cool?
Yeah, I was trying to think if it is item.id or we can use something like from the route props, because you're going to be, by the time you update this, you're gonna have the ID in the bar, like on the address bar, right?
Yes. But if we're passing in the item, it's just easiest to access it using the ID.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Less work. I'm all about less work.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So we have our Axios. I forgot to put Axios here at the front. That's why it was throwing that little red squiggly line, or the linter was catching it. So axios.put, we have our URL. Our URL ends in an item ID, which we've interpolated back here. And then just like the post, we're going to pass our item in as well for our request body. It returns a promise, so we're going to have our then. We're going to have our catch. In our then, we're going to have some sort of response. But right now, we're just going to console.log the response. And then same for our catch. We're going to have some sort of error response. And we're just going to console.log the error. Okay. So the way that we can get the information about the item that we want to update. So as a user who has probably utilized sites where you're updating information, what do you guys expect when you click on edit? If you click on something that you're wanting to edit and you click on edit and you have a form and you're updating whatever information it is that you're updating, what do you guys as users expect?
Either for whatever we just wrote to disappear, or for there to be, I don't know how to explain it. But that was just that one part.
Well, I would expect to stay on the same page, probably show a message like, hey, your data was successfully updated or something like that.
Okay, but even before all of that, so say for instance, we are on our, if I go to my React application, let me open this up on a new page. If I was just to go to an individual item and say, for instance,
okay.
I had an update.
Yeah, we need to have a button for the update option.
Yes, and then what needs to be passed to that update form?
It need to
Say that again.
Set state.
Well, we need to pass the function that is going to handle the update as a props.
Yes, that is very much correct. But what information do we need for our actual form?
The information itself.
Yes, because if we were to try to just set a button to an update form endpoint that has an empty form, I don't think the user is going to necessarily be entirely happy with that, because they're going to have to remember like what they said before. So you want to be able to pass the information to the update form and have it already fill the form, so that all they have to do is edit whatever it is they're going to edit, right?
Yeah, you're saying that instead of finding an empty form, the user have to know what is modifying, what is updating.
Right. So we're going to pre-fill a form with like this information so that they can edit however they want to, and then they'll hit submit, and then it'll update the object for them.
Okay.
Right. So if we wanted to change it to be from Shakespearean insults chart to, oh, I don't know, insert name of other author here, insults chart, we can do that. So, but we need to be able to pass Shakespearean insults chart to the name field of the input, so that the user knows what is already there.
That's right. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so in order to do that, and it's better if I just show you guys how to do this because it can be a little convoluted and confusing. So I am just going to create a function. So I'm going to create a function called set update form. And this is basically going to be a form that basically sets up our update form. It is going to take in an event. It's also going to take in our item. And the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to e.prevent default.
And then is it like how we did before with history? Because it has to do with the history that the history of the text that we've already put into it.
You're on the right track. We're definitely going to be using the history.push, this .props.history.push to get to our form. The first thing we need to figure out though is when we are calling a set update form, we need to utilize this item in some form or fashion. So basically what we're wanting to pull from this item is all of the information off of that item, and then we are going to declare that as like being like, this is the item we want to update. So you can call it whatever you want, but I'm just going to call it active item, and we're going to set that active item on state. So the active item is whatever we are going to be updating. It's the item we are working with whenever we are updating an item. Okay, so whatever item that is. So what we are going to do is we are going to do a this.setState active item, and we're going to set that to our item. And then we're going to do our this.props.history.push, and we are going to update form.
Okay, so active item, is that just a, what's the word?
Banana word?
Yeah.
Yes, you can call whatever you want.
Okay.
As long as you match it. This can be whatever.
Okay. Because I was just like, it seems like banana.
Now, why are we pushing to the same page that we are actually at right now? Because when the set update triggers, it's because we are on that same page. We are updating our data. Why are we like returning again to the same page that we are right now?
So this particular function is going to go to our item it's going to be passed to our item.js, because we're going to put a couple of buttons here.
Oh, okay, okay. So you're actually going to put a button on the item list.
Yes.
Right below each item, and then when you click, it will take you to that
yes.
route. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So the update button, so update will take you to update page. Delete will just delete. Okay. And actually, let me give you the code for that, for the button and where. Item.
Can we add those buttons on the item list?
So like in here?
Let me see. Yes, inside the map.
Config.
can we call like insert a component like below the the price or below the description?
So for the map, if we were to do it on item list, the
Okay.
delete will show up in each individual card.
Sure. Yes.
What we want to do is have it show up below. Like say
Okay.
somebody sees the description and they were like, okay, there's a typo here. And then there's an update
Okay.
right below the description.
Okay.
That's what we're going for.
Okay.
Yeah. But that, I mean, theoretically, I mean, you could do that if you really wanted to. It's totally fine. Just the way we have this particular project set up, we have the buttons below every individual item. Or
Okay.
their detailed page, I should say.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to have a button, update button, and then this button is going to have a class name of, this is a weird class name, but this is what we have on our CSS. Medium button, and it's a form button. And you should get a button that looks kind of like this one. All right, so now that we have our update button, we need to actually take this function here and then pass it down to our item. So we already have items being passed down. We just need to add set update form equals this dot not state dot set update form. Okay. Make sure I have everything, all my I's dotted, T's crossed, and I think that looks okay. All right, so let's go to our item.js. And then on our actual button itself, we're gonna want to have some sort of on-click handler that is basically going to take us to our update form page, right? So it needs to be a function. Let me double check.
Does it need to be dynamic?
Not if you do it on the item, on the individual item. If you were doing that on the item list, yes, because you have to take the ID. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we have item identified here, so we can just utilize this particular, not parameter, this particular variable, and pass it down to our on-click here. That's how we'll actually set the update form. So we need to do a function, and we need to do props.set, I think I called it set update form, and it's going to take in an event, and it's going to take in the item that we have here. I need to pass in an event there. Let's see, so we have our onClick, it's taking in an event. We are calling props.setUpdateForm, and we're passing an event object, and we're passing the item itself. And so what this should do is when we click on it, it should take us to the update form page if all goes according to plan. And of course, it doesn't go according to plan. Link is defined but never used. That shouldn't be an issue. All right, so let's double check. Let's take a look. Make sure I'm doing everything correctly. Did I pass set update form equals this dot set update form? Let's double check to make sure that my set update form is correct.
Well, the thing is that we don't have any route yet for update form, right?
Well, that's a very, very, very good. Let's double check on that. Let's. So, okay, you're exactly right. So it looks like we have update form, but we don't have anything past to update form. So we need to take a look at. We need to utilize this active item. So let's pass in our render. And our render is takes in props. And it's going to bring back our update form. And then we are going to pass in our ... props. And then we're also going to pass in active item equals this dot state dot. Is it this dot state dot active item? Oh no, I called it whatever. Okay. And then we also need to pass, while we're at it, this function here. So that will work whenever the time comes. Update item equals this dot update item. Okay. Cool. Let's take a gander and see if it works now. So let's start from here. We'll refresh. Shop now. Click here. Still not working. Why do you guys think that might not be working?
Because we don't have the component created yet. Or do we?
The component's there. It's there. It's pre-written. It's pre-written. So
okay.
It's here.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's take a look at our index.js. There is a little bit of an anomaly, I would say, with where we are here versus where update form is. It's really hard to describe, but we don't have access to the actual. So let me just console log the props on update form to see what we have. Let me just double check. So this dot state. So here, let me console log this dot state or this dot props update form, and then let me console log props here. Console log props and props. Okay. So we have some item props. We've got our match. We do have our location. Yada yada. That looks okay. That looks all right. But if we try to go to our update form, it says cannot read property name of null. Well, here, hold on. It's because I'm trying to directly go to it. It needs to access from here. And it's not working. Let me double check, inspect. Cannot read property push of undefined. Cannot read property push of undefined. All right, cool. So let's take a look at our app, well, not app.js, it's our item.js. And I think there is something going on with the fact that, and I can't remember exactly why this is, but I just know for sure, for certain, that the reason why we're getting the problem with the router is that for whatever reason, the props are not being passed properly. So we have to, because our methods are on app.js as opposed to like in the components where we route to, we actually have to physically pass the router props with the methods that are in app.js. Otherwise, we don't route properly. We don't get access to this.props.history or this.props.location or this.props.match. So we actually have to physically pass those props and add those props to app so that we can actually utilize it like we do any other route. So that's the big thing. So in order to do that, we need to create basically a higher order component. So, and this is a lot simpler than what we did a couple weeks ago. So all we have to do, there's this object that we, or this component basically that we, or not with component, with router. It's just called with router. And then you can tell it's a higher order component because it starts with the word with. And then if we come down here to, oh, I'm passing it in the wrong. This is wrong, sorry. Let's do this on app.js or index.js. We're passing in with router here. And then you go right above the root element here. And then you can call this whatever you want, but I'm just going to call mine with router app equals with router app. And you're passing app in as a parameter. And then this, you are going to replace app with. So now app has access to the router props. So the match, the location, the history, all those particular props that are usually associated with router, with the React router, you're now going to be able to access those. So now let's try utilizing this function and getting to our update form now that we have this set up, and see if it works. Okay, so so now we have our function operating properly. We have our information being passed like it ought to be. So now all we have to do, I think, is wire up this button here. So let's double check on update form. We go down here to the actual button itself. We just need to do an on click on this particular button. Excuse me, not an on click, but an on submit. So let's go back up here. On submit, this dot handle submit. So we have the handle submit not written, so we just need to write that. And handle submit is going to take in an event. Where we are going to prevent default. And we are just going to call, what did I call it up here? I called it update item. So we are just going to call update item. This dot props dot update item. And just like before, we have this change handler, and it is going to update this dot props dot active item. So if we go back to our index.js, we are passing, here we go. We have my whatever property, our banana word, and we are setting the form with, this is the active item. And then we are passing this active item down into the update form. So I'm calling it active item so we can access it as active item in the actual form itself. And I'm setting it to this .state .whatever because that's what I called it up here. In all actuality, I would probably just call this active item. But I just wanted to demonstrate that you can call it whatever you want. Okay. So, so we have our active item. So this is the item that we are working with. So the active item is the item that we are working with, just to reiterate that. And then our update item is our actual function itself. So let's go back to our update form. So when we get to update form, we're basically setting to state the current state of the item. So whenever somebody clicks on update item, we are setting the current state of the item to the update form state. So however it currently looks on the screen, or however the item is set up, whatever price it's set at, whatever description it has. So so that is what we currently have on state. And then just like in our post request, we are going to do the same thing with our change handler. Basically the same thing with our handle submit as well. But instead of add item, it's just going to be update item. So we're going to pass in this .state .item as our argument. And then let me double check to make sure in our update item, did we go to, no, we haven't done anything with our update items. All right, so when we do our actual updating itself, just like with the post request, where's the post request? Here we go. It's basically the same thing. So I'm just gonna copy pasta it. The only thing that's different is the syntax of the actual like URL. So the arguments that are passed in. Everything else is the same. So let's try it to see if it works. Get rid of this. Change it to a set of 10. They're going to up the price to $120. Same picture. Let's hit update and see what happens. Looks like we have some mathematical glasses. We have a set of 10 of them, and it's $120. If we click on it, still the same. Everything else is the same. So that's how we update items. I know there are probably questions, so any questions?
How does the page know once you click update button to go back to the item list? Is that when you history.push into item list?
Yes,
Okay.
that's this line right here.
Okay. My only question.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Well, yeah, I have a question about the router. Why do we have to wrap pretty much the entire application in? I think it was on index.js. Yeah, what it says with router app. If we were trying to use the history and all that from route, but we were not trying to use that like in the main app. We were trying to use that in a component, basically, in update items.
It's mainly because when we are setting up the, where is it at? This particular item here. So when we're setting the active item onto this state, this is not inside the router. So in order to actually utilize the router and have it pushed to the correct form, we actually have to utilize the router props, and those are not available on app.js or index.js.
Got it. So one way to eliminate that is probably taking like the update item function, moving it over the update item component.
Yeah, 100%. You could probably, there are probably several ways that you could utilize to
Okay.
solve the issue. This is not the only, definitely not the only way to solve the issue.
Okay.
I honestly have never heard with router before last month. So the first time I used it was last month.
Okay. So anytime you want to use any properties from router, you have to pretty much wrap that section with router, so you can access all those properties.
Yes, the instance where I used it was on my labs project, where I had a navigation bar that I utilized that we utilized across our entire application. So it didn't need to be in router, right? So we had a navigation, and then we had our router with all of our stuff. But I wanted to be able to use this .props.history.push in order to do a search on our API. So in order to do that, I had to wrap the navigation, or so the entire application with router in order to get the navigation bar to recognize this .props.history.
Got it. Okay.
Cool. It was
Yes.
a neat little trick that I learned just only last month. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you try to use props, there's actually not props passed down to that, because that's our main class.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, it's that part right there is a bit confusing.
Yeah. It just like higher order components. I think it might take a minute to kind of wrap your mind around.
Mm.
So I'm not surprised that it's a little jarring. And it's a little like, huh? What? I don't understand. So, because it was that way for me too, honestly.
Yeah, especially if you're calling router and link and all that on the same on the same file.
Right.
But yeah, it seems like it's how it works. So it's
Yeah. And honestly, there's probably a different or a better way that you could probably handle this, like you mentioned. So you could probably move some stuff around and have it work without utilizing the with router. I think when Dustin was setting this up, though, he just wanted to show you guys that it exists.
Sure. Okay.
I know that we've hit our time. What I can do is I can copy, I can either go through the delete and go over on time, or I can just copy paste the code, because it's not very different from the put, except you're using delete instead. So I can copy paste that and just send it to you guys, or I can actually go through it.
Could you send us your whole code sandbox?
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would put the delete in there and then I would send it to you.
Okay.
That works for me.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Awesome, cool beans. So yeah, so that's the only thing that's left. For us in regards to your guys' sprint challenge, because it is sprint challenge week, right? Yeah, it's sprint challenge week. As far as I know, you guys are only going to need to focus and learn and make sure you know get and post. I think put and delete are stretch goals. So make sure you really understand get and post. If you understand get and post, you should be golden for your actual sprint challenge. So
What is a sprint challenge?
I'll have to look it up, but I'll take a look and I will give you a brief description in Slack, because I can't remember right now.
That's cool. So just understand get and post.
Yeah, just understand get and post.
Okay.
So that's the thing that I do remember, because I do remember put and delete or stretch. So because I know that's a lot for 3 hours. So yeah. But anyway, any other pressing questions? Okay. I will get on this delete. I will post my code here probably in the next 15 minutes. And then I will double check the sprint challenge, make sure there's not anything funny on there. So, or that you guys wouldn't be prepared for, I should say. I am here on, obviously tomorrow. And then Friday night, I'll be here from 6 to 9 p.m. So just give me a holler if you guys need any sort of help. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week for sure on Monday. So,
I do have one more question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know on the new document from the assembly showed that we will not have a Redux sprint challenge. But would that apply for our Redux unit?
I don't think so. I'm planning to do Redux. So it was July 22nd, right, when they were doing the switch?
Yeah.
So I think what's going to happen is, wait, is next week break? Is next week July 4th?
Yes.
Yes.
Crud.
I'm excited for it.
So I guess I won't see you guys next week. It's break week. So I'll see you guys the following week, which is, then we'll do Redux for 2 weeks. So I think we're going to have a Redux sprint challenge, but we're not going to have a build week, because you guys are going to rejoin your regularly scheduled cohort.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So there's no front end build week.
For you guys, no, you'll be able to do it in Lambda, what they call Lambda X. Did they discuss what Lambda X was? So that's when you're going to have the ability to make up that front end build week. If you care to do it, you can do it there, or you can move on to other. Because from what I gather from Lambda X, it's like a continuation of labs. So you'll be working with other developers and creating other projects. And it's if it's formatted anything like labs, they require tickets from both sides, or tickets from front end, tickets from back end every week. But I don't know how that would factor into making up a build week. So I think that's to be determined. So I wouldn't put that in stone yet. I do know you'll have a chance to at least make it up. I just don't know how that'll be made up.
So we do our sprint this on our 5th day this weekend, and then we're off for a whole week, and then we start Redux the following week.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would take the time during your actual break to read up a little bit on Redux, because it's confusing. So there's a lot of fiddly bits. And so if you thought there were fiddly bits with React, there's even more with Redux. So it was probably one of my harder weeks during front end. So just do a little bit of reading, I think, on it. At least know what actions are, what reducers are, what a store is, and how Redux works as far as like what its purpose is. I think if you do a little bit of reading on that, don't necessarily go through the tutorial on Redux's website, because that can get a little confusing, because it's right off the bat, it's a to-do app. It's not even like a small toy problem. It's a bigger toy problem. And so I think that can get a little confusing. I would just watch Lambda's videos. I think Dustin does a really great presentation on how Redux works and how, like, he uses pictures and diagrams. And I'm a very visual person, and so I don't know if all of y'all are visual people. So I feel like what he does is a really great presentation. But obviously there's a lot of reading material as well. So I know some of you like to read. So, but yeah, to take a gander at Redux, I think that'll help you the following 2 weeks.
Okay, so next week we don't have any classes at all, right?
Yeah, it's break week completely.
Okay.
Yeah, happy 4th.
Okay.
So, and then but if you guys want to, I know that there is a hackathon sometime that week. I encourage you guys to take part in that if you want to. So I did it last July, and it was a lot of fun. It's like 2 or 3 days, I think, and you just spend the time building an app. And when I was on it last year, we just built a blog site. It was fairly simple, and I just built a back end to it, and everybody else worked on the front end. So it was a lot of fun. I really liked it. It was a team. There was 3 of us, and
Yeah, it's on the 1st and 2nd.
so I would highly recommend you guys do it if you want to. So it's 48 hours of fun. So, and there's prizes for the winners, I believe. So, but
Good.
Yeah, and it'll give you opportunity to work with other people too, who may or may not be on a different level than you. So I think that's super awesome to do as well. So, any other pressing issues? Okay, I will see you guys later. I hope you have if I don't get the chance to talk to you, I hope you have a really, really great break. I will see you guys soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.